Listening, fill in the blanks guided practice. Here's the first question.
Now, this requires us to step back one step. I think we have to ask ourselves some hard questions. Do we have any chance of accomplishing the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030? Are there actually inherent trade-offs that are not compatible with our current development paradigm? But are there perhaps synergies where we can really accelerate change? And is it really a people planet really taking seriously the social and economic aspirational goals within the life support systems on Earth?
The answers. How many of these did you type in correctly? And how did you do that? Did you type while you were listening, or did you first take down notes and then at the end of the audio came back and typed them into the blanks? Whatever you do, make sure that you stick to one method only. Okay, don't be the person who sometimes tries to type them into the screen when he's not able to do that properly, and tries to take notes, and he keeps jumping from one thing to another, but never spends the required effort to properly learn or practice one of these techniques. So both methods are good, but make sure that you stick to one and you practice that. The next question.
Wizards envision a world of glittering, hyper-efficient megacities surrounded by vast tracts of untouched nature, economies that have transitioned from atoms to bits, dematerialized capitalist societies that no longer depend on exploiting nature. Energy to wizards come from compact nuclear power plants, food from low-footprint farms with ultra-productive genetically modified crops tended by robots, water from high-throughput desalination plants, which means we no longer exploit rivers and aquifers. Wizards envision all 10 billion of us packed into ultra-dense but walkable megacities, an urbanized world of maximum human aspiration and maximum human liberty.
Here are the answers. Most of these are normal words familiar to most of us. Just make sure that you review, and if there are any spelling mistakes or grammar mistakes, you correct them before you submit the answer. Next question now.
Belle later finds herself in the castle where she came to save her father. She chooses to stay there instead of him sacrificing herself for the well-being of a parent. Her stay in the castle supports the ideas of sexism and female inequality in multiple ways. First and foremost, being the Beast's prisoner, she is literally locked in the castle. Yet one can interpret this imprisonment from a different angle and argue that it figuratively embodies the existing gender inequality. The visibly subordinate relationship between Belle and the Beast metaphorically visualizes patriarchy in the family life, or perhaps even stands for family tyranny. In this respect, the image of the Beast only intensifies the power and cruelty of the oppressor. The castle becomes Belle's cage, where she is both literally and symbolically locked.
The answers. Make sure that you're always making use of the time, the precious few seconds that you have before the audio starts playing. Especially in longer text like this, it's useful if you become familiar with the words before the blank, so that, when you hear instead of, that it's time to put your cursor into a blank. When you come near ideas of sexism, then again it's time to fill a blank. So just try to become familiar with the words around the blanks. Next question.
To some extent, the base of the alt-right online consists of what used to be called, in social science, alienated young men. And they were gamers online, and a controversy arose around the place of women in the gamer world, and it provoked an immense backlash against feminism itself, and very anti-women. And that kind of consolidated this element of what would constitute the alt-right, which Donald Trump famously said, well, these online things aren't necessarily from Russia. They could have been from some 400-pound kid lying on his mother's bed somewhere. The point being that there are these kind of unhappy young men who are engaged more culturally than politically.
The answers, as you have noticed, each of these questions, the audio in each of these questions, it was different. They were different from each other. The pace, some of them, the speakers were talking at a very fast pace. In other audios, for example, in this question, at a very slow pace, very natural pace, even hesitating at different places. So that's why it's important that when you practice every day, when you're listening, try to listen to podcasts and academic lectures on different topics. So, and use a mix, professors from some American universities, then from some UK universities, from some Australian universities, so that you get exposed to different accents, different speeds. Listen to some podcasts which are from, for example, from some female professors, while others from some male professors. So again, you become used to different types of voices. So that's a very important skill, to be able to understand different paces, to follow along different speeds, and to understand the different ways in which people talk, to be comfortable with that. So that's a skill which is kind of tested in these fill in the blanks questions.